Okay, so let's make some drums, shall we? So here we are on the main screen. Let's press drums. Now that brings up a slightly intimidating array of features, but I'll talk them through. They're really not that complicated at all. These dials here are settings for effects. Now, because this is only a cheap free app that's pretty basic in scope, the effects are pretty cool, but they affect all the sounds at the same time. Now, drums usually have to be very precise, and whilst it can be very, very cool to add long reverbs and delays, that sort of echoey, swooshy type sounds, they're only effects, and you would only really do that on one or two sounds at a time, because otherwise it'll just drown out the whole drum part, or indeed the whole track. So very rarely would I actually ever touch any of these. Maybe on an ultra minimal drum part you might be able to get away with a little bit, but generally speaking it just kind of, it's too muddy, it's too messy to use delay and reverbs. Distortion, again, not so much. Fade out effects, just the length of each sound. And filter, yeah, it's quite nice, it sort of muffles the sound, and you can use it for stuff, but it's pretty basic, so I don't bother. Same with pitch, they just bring the individual sounds up and down in pitch. But down the bottom here you've got the actual drum parts, and they sound a bit like this. Great. If you don't like them, you can select a different kit, and you can do that by pressing the little arrow buttons at the bottom here. So previously that was Deep House Kit, it's called. There's EDM kit, there's electro pop, electronica, hip hop, house, juicy, Kennet. Strange that they would name a drum kit after a canal in the West Country of England, but there we go. Old tape, sample hop, I mean, yeah, they all sorts of different things that they've got in there. But I'll just pick one at random, this Tech 09 one. Let's see what the drum sounds like on this. So that's a kick drum. Nice, that's quite a nice snare sound. Hi-hat, close hi-hat. Oh, that's the classic stick hit from a TR-909. That's a bit like a tom from a 909. Oh, that's quite a juicy TR-909 open hat sound. That's quite cool. Yep, the 909 clap and the 909 tom. That's not a bad effort actually, in terms of actually sounding a bit like a 909, one of the two most iconic drum machines ever, and indeed most cloned and sampled in the world. So yeah, there you go, you've got some good sounds there. Now, in order to actually record anything, it's back up to these features at the top here. Now, the first thing to do on drums is to set the loop length, because that's actually the number of bars, and annoyingly on this app it always defaults to it being only one bar. Now, sometimes with drums that's fine, it's just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But generally speaking, to try and record anything in one bar is nowhere near enough. So I would always go 2 or 4, and actually on most of the melodies and bass lines and stuff I go up to 8. But for this, let's just go with 4. Okay, so that's going to be 4 measures of 4, and you'll hear how that works in a second. In order to actually start the recording, and again you'll be playing in off the pads, you just press record, which is, I don't know if you can see that, how's that working? Not too well. First ever YouTube videos, I've got quite a lot to learn on how to do this. That's the record feature there, which is the sort of typical circle, what used to be red in the olden days. The arrow pointing to the right, the triangle pointing to the right is the play button. That's grid, which I'll come on to in a minute. That's bin, and that's the 3 settings thing that we looked at a moment ago, which gives you the sort of basic overview of the track. So let's record something in now. Keep it really, really simple. Press record, it says play when ready. It doesn't count you in, it just literally starts recording as soon as you touch one of the pads. So it's just going to be something simple just to keep us going and get us started. So how about this? Okay, there's a bit of wobbly timing in there. Okay, so let's go into, oh, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but if you click on that little thing there, which is the thing that looks a bit like a grid, that takes you into the grid editor, which is actually a much easier way of editing notes than just playing them in. But let's play. So that's not quite right, is it? That should probably be there. Bum chat, bum chat. There we go. Bum chat. Okay, so there we go. Go back. Oops, back too far. Back to the pads. Let's add some just some hi-hats in as the next thing. So it'll record over what you've done already. So you just press record, and I'll just do some hi-hats. And I'll keep recording a little bit more. Okay, that's got far too much going on in it, but by way of demo, beforehand we had the kick and the snare in the grid. Let's see what we've got now. Okay, we've got all of these hi-hats, and we've got some extra stuff going on here which I recorded in, which is all way too busy. So, some general tips about drum programming. Firstly, less is more. Something I learned a long time ago, and it's proven true ever since, is that your ears are almost trained to listen to drums in a way as if a human being was actually playing something in front of you. So if you could imagine that you've got a drummer has two arms and two legs. Some might say two arms too many, actually, in the case of certain drummers, but hey, there we go. And one of the feet is playing the kick drum and the other foot is playing the opening and closing of the hi-hat. So actually it's only one foot that's actually making any sound. Other than that, you've got two drumsticks making sounds. So you've only ever got three things happening when you have a human being playing the drums. Amazing though that may sound, because some incredible drummers make it sound like there's just something happening all the time, but it's only ever 3 points of contact. So obviously you can have two drum kits, or you can have a drum kit, a percussion section, some congas and all sorts of stuff going on. But each of those would actually be different parts. So each drum part, a good rule of thumb is don't have too much going on and kind of base it around the fact that it would be a human being that would be playing them. So here, for instance, it would be possible for a human to play the snare and the hi-hat at the same time, but it just sounds too busy if you have that. So I'm going to delete that. I'm going to delete those duplicate notes. It won't even really sound any different to what it was before, but it'll just sound better. And here we've got some other doubling up going on as well, so let's just get rid of that. Two kicks next to each other is probably okay. That hi-hat's probably alright as well, but I'll move that little note I just moved there as like a crossbeat that goes kind of at the end of the section, bringing it into the next section. These percussions, not sure I like them very much. I can't even remember now which ones they even were sound-wise, so let's take it from the top and just see how it sounds. Okay, so that was that hit sound, which is a bit too loud actually, but I'll leave it in for now. Okay, so the fill sounds okay at the end, believe it or not, even though it's all a bit bunched up. But I'll remove that, and I will remove some of these as well, because they're just a little bit. Actually, that's a clap, isn't it? I probably do want that clap in, actually. Okay, let's just get rid of some of these, because they're all a little bit too busy. So let's get from the top. Okay, drop. Oops. Try again. Okay, I have now decided that these hit sounds are awful because they've got too much delay on them. You can hear it echoing. The echo makes it, just clutters things up, and it really doesn't sound very nice. So let's just delete all of those and see where we get to. Okay, there's one there at the end, so I'll get rid of them. And because we've got 4 measures, as you can probably see, there are 4 little dots here, which are each of the 4 bars that we've programmed. So this is all 1 bar. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1 at the bottom there. You can mess around and put in other things if you want to, like for instance, it might be nice just to sort of do something funky with the hi-hats there. Let's do a little cross beat on the snare. Let's do a cross beat on the snare after the... Let's do it there. There, okay. And let's just muddle these up a little bit so that there's a bit more action happening. Put an extra one in there, and scroll to the top and see how we go. And there you have it. That is your first drum beat. We've done 4 bars. We could have done 8. We could have done 2. We could have done 1. But 4 is pretty useful for the starting blocks of a simple, particular sort of dance track. We can go back and edit it later. But for now, that's got a little bit of energy. It's got some interesting little quirks in it and some fun sounds. The overall drum sound's quite convincing. So I think that'll do for now. Then we'll move on to putting a bass line to it in the next video.